everybody. How is everyone this Sunday? Um, we are very excited. Today we're going to be talking about Good Omens. And we have a special guest all the way from the other side of the pond joining us. Martin Lejeune is going to be joining us. We're going to introduce ourselves. My fabulous co-hosts are going to go first, and then our special guest will introduce himself, and we'll go around clockwise, starting with Ben.
Cool. I'm Ben Pick. I post weekly videos on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern as Running to Write. I have my debut novel out, Falling Through, and really excited to talk about this book and TV show adaptation.
I'm Natalie Locke, juggling many things right now. This is the epitome of my life. Yes, you're Spencer. And this is a summary. And then just throw in flash fictions and a full-time job for fun. So,
my name's Martin. I co-wrote this book with spaceships in. Check it out if you're into that kind of thing. I also host a monthly flash fiction stream because who doesn't? Flash Aha, which will be on the last Saturday of the month with Richard Holiday, AuthorTube favorite.
Can't wait, Mom.
Yes, awesome. And you are here on my channel. I am the Vixen of Fiction. On YouTube, I host live streams at 7 p.m. on Tuesday nights, and you can occasionally find me streaming with some of my other bookish and writer friends here on the interwebs. And let's get right into it, guys. Good Omens. So I want to start with this. Martin has a knowledge of how Good Omens came to be, how Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman kind of met and started writing together. So Martin, you want to go ahead and give us that story?
So Terry Pratchett worked in publicity at the Gas Board, and Neil Gaiman was a journalist for like a local paper, and they got chatting through that, and at some point realized they were both complete fantasy dweebs, and ended up sitting down to write this together. But it was before Discworld was published. It was before Neverwhere or Sandman, and it was when they were just complete unknowns who'd been like sharing hotel rooms at conventions and what have you. Just decided to write this book together. Gaiman had started writing a piece about basically a young boy who was the Antichrist, who gets raised by nice middle-class English parents, and he'd sent it to some friends and sort of forgotten about it. And Pratchett came back to him and was sort of like, can I option this from you? Because this is a great idea. And they ended up collaborating.
That's really cool. All right. So let's go ahead and dive right in. We've got Vicky is here and Cool Gamer hanging out in the chat with us today. It's always fun to have people in the chat. We get most of our views on the replay, which is perfectly cool. If you are watching on the replay and you want to discuss it a little bit, go ahead and you can leave your comments later on in the box below. And I try to get back to people. We just say always keep it friendly. And remember, when we're watching these shows and reading these books, we're not always part of the fandom. Sometimes we are, but sometimes we're not. We're just people who are taking in this media. So be kind in that respect if we don't get everything that hardcore fandom people get. But if there is something that you want us to know about that we may have missed, and you are in fandom, we're happy to, take in all those nuggets.
Twilight and Doom are great examples of that.
Yes.
I like Dune.
Dune. I said Doom. God, same thing.
June.
Yes.
So just throwing it out there where we're usually not always on the same place, but we're able to be respectful to each other. So just continue that to the comments.
Absolutely. And I don't tell me, do you like this? Do you like? I'm like, I like to get you guys' reactions just as fresh. So even though Natalie and I did a watch party for this, so I don't have it linked yet, but if you're watching on the replay, the watch party will be linked if you want to go back and watch it again and kind of get our thoughts on it.
You'll have to pull up the first episode yourself on Amazon Prime, unless this is like way in the future and maybe somehow it changes. But yeah, that's what it is today. And but if you've ever been a fan of Mystery Science Theater 3000, just think that. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes I've already read and watched them, whatever they are, also. So, and I'm like, I get to watch it or read it again, and I love chatting with everybody about it. So that's cool. Hey, Regina, how are you doing today? All right, so let's go with first things first. I always have to find all my stuff again. All right, we're going to start with the book. So we'll talk about the book first, then we'll go into the show, and then it's going to be no holds barred towards the end. Dislike, neutral, like, or love. Anybody a dislike?
I dislike that I didn't read it sooner.
Anybody a neutral? A like. A love. I'm right there.
Between those two.
Like and love. Yes, I'm a like to love on this one. It was great. And Martin, love it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's I think it was 2017 that I actually sat down and read it, and it's been my complete gateway for all things Pratchett. I don't know if you're familiar with the Discworld books, but I got given The Color of Magic when I was about 11, which is much more high fantasy than his later stuff. And I'm just reading it, and it's these characters, and they're talking about going hubward or ringward, and I'm just like, what? And I had, and like they were always read, and I don't mean to offend anyone watching this, but I'm sure I will. They always seem to be enjoyed by a certain type of greasy-haired young man who always put me off slightly. And a very good friend of mine, who may or may not be a greasy-haired young man, just kept going, "Why, you've got to read them," because it's from Newcastle, they do that. And I ended up, I was packing up my apartment in France, and for like a week solid, so I just had audiobooks on the go the whole time, and I got the Discworld ones narrated by Nigel Planner from The Young Ones, and I listened to the first one, Color of Magic, and it was exactly as I remembered it, more or less. And then I started The Light Fantastic, and I think one of the opening lines is about how this culture is very honest, and if a woman is said to have a face that could launch a face that could launch 1,000 ships, she bloody well better resemble a bottle of champagne. And I was like, hang on now, this is funny. But yeah, going back and reading Good Omens after being put off him for decades just has opened. I've read about a quarter of the Discworld books now. There's about 40 of them. In my absolute gateway.
That's good. That's good. It's funny how sometimes if a writer writes something in a slightly different genre, how you're like, wait a minute, I like this. Let me go back and take a look at this other stuff that I wasn't too into before. And Ben, you were also a love on this one?
Oh, absolutely. I'm not going to lie. Of all of the books we've done so far on scripting the book, this is one of my favorites. And sort of going on what Martin said, The Color of Magic is one of my favorite Discworld books. So that's where I sit on the issue.
Oh my goodness.
I don't think it's much of an issue then. It's love, just saying. I'm like and love. I think the reason I don't love it is because it was hard for me to follow with all the vast number of characters, and it's hard to picture. So it's one of those instances where, and also I was exposed to the show first before the book for me. But it's still, I recognize it, and I would never damper anybody's spirits of their level of appreciation for it. And it is something I would engage with again, but it's not my go-to one either. So like love is a very sacred thing for me. So, but I definitely completely fine with it, and I have no qualms.
Yeah. I think my first exposure to it was about 2000, I want to say 2008 or 9. So when I first read it, it seemed a little busy for me, but it's because also if you think about during that time I had lots of little kids and so I was busier. So it was one of those things where even though it's the style of book that I would like, it just took me a little bit longer because I would have to put it down, and then when I'd come back to it, I'd be like, where are we? Who is this? Kind of thing. But it fascinated me enough that I'm like, I definitely wanted to finish it and I enjoyed it very much. So then when I heard that the show was going to be happening, I was like, oh, I've got to see this. So it re-sparked my want to go back and reread it. So rereading it was a lot better because I was more in a place where I could just sit down and just take it in and enjoy it. So that's why I'm a like to love it. I'm probably more on the love side than the like with it, but it's just that initial that I can see how with so many characters and so many stories interweaving that if you don't have that that time to really concentrate on it, you can get a little bit like where are we at a little bit? What's going on? But it was definitely funny. You know, it had all of the things that I like. So like to love on this one. It was excellent though. Very excellent. All right, so let's go ahead and what did you think of Good Omens, the book overall? Just what are your thoughts? And then we'll get into next, we'll talk about the writers blending their styles. So what did you guys think? We'll go ahead clockwise around.
I thought it was a fantastically written book. It's one of the few books, the best way I can think of it is it's like Brandon Sanderson's Elantris, where it tells a complete circle and it fulfilled every single side quest, subplot, everything just wrapped up tightly in a neat bow. And it did it with such a amount of wit, and it is exclusively British. I mean, that's just a way that I would describe it. Like Neil Gaiman has done other things. I would describe American Gods as incredibly American, but in this one, it is like I can't picture any other place where this story could happen.
Yeah, absolutely. And I completely agree. And it's not until you said every subplot wrapped up, and I went, oh, "You're right." Like, and the humor is what captured me because and I was telling Nia this, like I am a multitasker, and usually with the books we do, it's usually audiobooks. So I'm either in the shower running or in the car running. Like I have to be doing something else to also enjoy the book. But it's got to be something mundane that I'm not really fully invested in, so I can actually have my brain engaged in the book.
I mean, I think if you're just sitting down with a paperback, it's not proper reading.
That's me. I'm like a multitasker. I can't operate otherwise. And but there was moments where my mind would wander and I wouldn't be paying attention to the book, and then something would happen. Like literally, I'm in the shower and it was the scene about the dog. And I am like, I stop and I open the shower door a little bit better so I could hear, because that day the speaker wasn't working, and I'm hearing it. I'm like, this is intense, like, and everything. And like, it engaged me. So the language was definitely engagement, and it would prevent me from pulling away. It almost seemed like how YouTube videos are, like the really big productive ones and huge production and stuff like that, where there's like but wait, and like very pop and in your face. And it's not in your face in the writing, but it was like there was enough excitement, like they did an algorithm or something to have make sure, okay, here's a quick wit comment and to engage the person, and then there would be another thing coming up later. It almost seemed like there was an algorithm, but I don't care if they did an algorithm. It was worth it. It engaged me.
Yeah.
It's funny because the initial idea of, the son of Satan being raised in the suburbs was clearly influenced by like The Omen, but I think would have come out just a few years before they initially started it. And, a book sort of half parodying a horror movie could have so easily gone the other way. And it kind of feels like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy without ever sounding like it's trying to be like The Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy, which is, you know, the 1 in 1,000 shot, which, if you've read Discworld, you know will always happen.
Yeah. We're going to do, we're breaking down our spoilers. I'm not sure what part you caught, Vicky, but book spoilers for this section, movie spoilers for the next section, or series spoilers for the next section, and then all spoilers all around towards the end. That way you kind of know what to be putting in the chat. But yeah, spoilers for the book right now. I would say my overall thoughts, I love narration in stories, and the way that it's narrated is so quippy and fun, and it's like, this is how the story's going, and then something funny, and it's just like, I love that. I absolutely love that.
Where the narrator is their own character.
Yes, the narrator's definitely a character.
Yeah, like that. There's a character of narration. I adore it. I adore it when the narrator, especially if the fact that this one is omniscient. I can't say the word omniscient.
Omniscient.
Okay, that's much better than everything I've been trying to attempt for the last 33 years. But so it almost had like a little bit of sass to it, a little bit. And what Crowley didn't realize, what, and everything. But I definitely adored it for that character of the narrator. I hope to achieve that level of characterization. I feel like character is almost overdone. You can make a drinking game out of it. Please don't. But yeah.
Yeah, especially because we're always told, don't tell, show, don't tell, show, don't tell. But when you've got a narrator like this, it's like, tell me more. Mm-hmm. Like, when does that happen? When you're like actually wanting the narrator, who is this omniscient being, to keep telling you more story. So I'm like, spot on. That was excellent.
I mean, that's just Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett tipping their hat to every trick they've learned and showing off their fantastic storytelling skills.
It sure is. Let me see. Where are we? All right. Speaking of Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett showing off their skills, what do you think about the way that they were able to blend their writing styles, especially if you read a lot of both? I'm more Neil Gaiman than I am Terry Pratchett. So for me, I feel like I could tell when it was Neil Gaiman more. I just feel like the overall story was more Neil Gaiman. But I'm not sure. Is that extra splash of humor, is that Terry Pratchett? You guys tell me.
I couldn't tell either. I do know something, and I'll bring it up when we get to the show itself. Because there's a good rumor that I heard. I don't know if it's confirmed or not. But yeah, as far as the storytelling goes, as far as reading it, I couldn't tell. It was seamless.
Yes.
For me, at least.
Yeah, I'm not really familiar with either works. I'm kind of not as cultured as I should be with the greats. I mean, even I've read one Stephen King novel my entire life. Like, I really am not cultured when it comes to that. But at the same time, I still enjoy a good book, and it was a good book, and I couldn't see a divide. There was not every character still had their voice accordingly.
I think I recall that Gaiman wrote a lot of Adam and the Them, and Pratchett did a lot of the stuff with the Horsemen. But in terms of reading it, it just, flowed exactly as you'd want. And it's just a damn fine piece of writing. But you look at Gaiman, and I wouldn't say he necessarily has a consistent style. Like Neverwhere and American Gods are kind of a similar voice, but Coraline and Sandman and the Graveyard Book, it's all over the shop.
Wow.
Yeah.
I do have something about Sandman, having currently be watching that one right now. So I'll get to that when we get to the series, because there are some definite consistent themes and tie-overs.
It tickled me that, and I'm probably ruining your entire format here, forgive me, but the guy in Good Omens, who's, I'm completely blanking on the character name, and the actor's name, helpfully, he voices the repair shop. Richard will know what that means. But the guy who's like in Tadfield, who's the like nosy neighbor, is also the first character you see in the Sandman adaptation, and that tickled me no end.
I mean, to be fair, we can wait there, but the British actors all get recycled between Game of Thrones, Harry Potter, like Doctor Who, especially. You see one actor in one thing, and then you just start seeing them everywhere.
Yes, especially the British actors. I'm like, wait a minute, you're in this and this and this. Yes.
Well, and then British actors, it seems like there's such a great correlation between the English accent and a Southern accent. And then they're in Walking Dead.
Like, yep, exactly.
I do declare.
Adriana says, I think it really speaks to how successfully they work together that the books seem cohesively written by a singular author. Absolutely. And Gwenna joined and said, yeah, these delayed notifications are no fun. Good Omens was the first book I had read from either author, and looking back, it was so beautifully done that it was definitely a gateway drug to their work. Yeah, I can definitely see that. All right. Any other thoughts on the two of them blending their style? And I just love Martin's story at the beginning about how they came together, because that's just the coolest. All right. Are you guys ready to talk about the series?
Sure.
All right. So
I didn't know there was a series.
All right. Yeah.
I didn't know there was a series. I mean, I assume so, since we're having another seasons, but yeah.
Well, yeah. So they have the season 1, and then it took forever. They kept saying that there's going to be a season 2. I don't know what it's going to, but I think that they've said that the season 2 is actually happening. So there you go. So
interestingly enough, there are rumors, or again, everything I know is unconfirmed, but they had an outline way back when Terry Pratchett and Neil Gaiman had created an outline for this. I think it was like 668, The Neighbor of the Beast, or something along those lines. So there is a legitimate script that they can use to make into season 2. It's not just them creating all
even without Pratchett. So they have.
Well, something. I mean, it was his work, and I don't know how much of that outline they actually wrote, but there is something there that they can work with that was a collaboration between Neil Gaiman and Terry Pratchett.
Man, I'm excited to see what it actually is, and I hope that we actually get the book for it as well.
I don't know whose idea it was to take this book and make a big, expensive streaming series about it, because this is not the book that gets that kind of money spent on it. It's the kind of book that, like Neverwhere, that gets a cheap 90s BBC adaptation made for 50p and good intentions. Yes, I know.
I tried to watch that, though. I tried to watch that Neverwhere.
I actually, I saw it completely by accident when I was about 8 years old, and it scared me to death. But the actress who plays Dor is actually Lydia in Breaking Bad. But yeah, I just saw it completely by accident, and just like, it's just this guy coming home and finding someone covered in blood in his hallway, and it's just like, yeah, that's too much for an 8-year-old on a school night.
Yeah, but if you haven't seen that Neverwhere, if you can find it, I can't remember where I saw it at, but give it a look.
Or don't.
Or don't.
In.
Or don't. Just go in prepared, but give it a look just to see what you think of it. So Good Omens, the show. Rihanna, any dislikes? Any neutrals?
It stopped. If it could have just kept going, that would have been nice.
Right?
Like when we finished it, I turned to my wife and it's just like, we're not going to have anything that good for a very long time, are we?
So likes, any likes? And who's a love? I loved it. I loved it. Let's go ahead. Martin, you want to go? Let's go backwards this time. Martin, why did you love it so much?
It just got the book right. There was an attempt to make it in the 90s as a film set in, I think it was Indiana or the Midwest. And then there was talk of doing it with Robin Williams and Johnny Depp in like the early 2000s. And it just, I mean, you could have done something and it was fine. It would have been fine. But like,
That'd be British.
Me and Dickie always have this conversation when we sit down to write anything of how, you know, if you're writing something that's going to be read around the world, how do you write something that speaks of your own experiences without, you know, just talking about settees and articulated lorries and making no sense to anyone? I once pitched a film producer who said it should be, you know, like local without being parochial, which annoyed me for the longest time because it's very confusing, but it does make sense. You want it to be the experience of an everyman that anyone can relate to and having the flavor of the culture. You know, you look at all these, you know, Scandinavian films that get remade in America, and they go, oh, well, what's successful in America is this. And they just boil it down to its most base ideas. And you get something very generic, the same as everything else. It manages to toe that line. I mean, you're all here not asking me what the M25 is. So I think, you know, they got that right.
Yeah, they explained that quite well. And luckily there's cities in America that have the same structure, which I'm like, makes so much sense now.
Yep.
But for me, the book itself, I wasn't aware of a series quite, but I definitely see series potential 100%, because I don't foresee any powers disappearing, and Serial and Crowley are still alive, so that's going to continue back and forth.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I absolutely loved it too. And I think every single actor in the show brought their A game. And because of that, it sort of like became a perfect storm where they were, because they were doing so well, they were encouraging everyone around them to do that was, you know, to do so well. And then that sort of fed off it in just one giant feedback loop. And so it was just so much fun to watch, and to watch certain characters chew through the scenery and to just have fun. Like that must have been such a fun place to be on set. So it's incredible how everything came through. And I know that Terry Pratchett wanted this to get made, and like you said, there was the failed 90s, there was a failed 2000s attempt, but he really wanted it to get made. And so before he died, he talked to Neil Gaiman about it, and basically Neil said, if it comes out, I'm going to be involved and I'm going to make sure it is exactly what we want it to be. And on top of that, it's really incredible and humbling, because when Neil went through and made it, that's the only way that I know that a lot of the parts that Terry have written, because Neil decided to focus more on what Terry had done than what he had written in the show. So a lot of the show is more of Terry coming through than Neil.
Yeah.
At least that's my understanding.
Which is such an excellent testament. The show is just so engaging from start to finish. When I saw it, I'm like, this is the book. You know what I mean? It just, and I just got to be, because Neil Gaiman had his hand in every aspect of it. So I feel like it came out how he wanted it to come out. And then when you speak about how he really wanted to bring out all of those elements of Pratchett, even though Pratchett wasn't there anymore. So it's just like, I'm like, this is it. It was delightful. Everybody did bring their A game. Even the intro is so fun to watch. It's just like it hit every point. I'm like, this is good stuff. This is good stuff. So yeah, I overall from start to end, I literally makes you want to watch from start to end. And it's over 6 hours because it's 6 episodes. Some of them are a little bit longer, some are a little bit shorter. And I remember the first time I watched it, I binged it till I fell asleep because I hadn't expected to want to watch the entire thing. And I started watching at 11. And I kept thinking, I'm just going to watch a couple episodes and I'll just watch the rest the next day. And literally did not want to stop watching until I was, exhausted and fell asleep. And I was like, I missed the last, 2.5 episodes because I fell asleep just from exhaustion. It was like 3 a.m. So, but it was just that engaging that I'm like, I want to stay up even though I have things to do in the morning to keep watching. And that whole, I'm just going to watch a couple episodes that we do, wasn't happening. Like, I just wanted to see what was going to happen next. And particularly the episode that I loved was it episode 4, where the whole first half before they even do the intro is just Crawley and the Ethereal's history together. I was just enthralled. Loved it.
And the best part is that wasn't really in the book. Like, that was, a few sentences at most. And so that was them spending an entire half episode to show us something that we had never read before.
Yep. That was excellent. I was like, we get to actually see this. Beautifully done.
Ben's a Doctor Who dweeb, so I really appreciate this. I was watching David Tennant episode the other day, and it was the one they shot at the Globe in London. And I had a double take because I'm just like, wait, Good Omens. The theatre that they film in Good Omens is a reconstruction in London of the original theatre that Shakespeare was performed in. And was used in that and Doctor
Who. Start as we might have to do this. Justin's Misery by Stephen King. I actually like that one. Stephen King's a hit or miss for me. Like, some of them I'm like, yes, and some of them like, what is this? But he's brilliant. I love Doctor Who, so I'm down for anything that David Tennant's going to be in. I've seen some very strange things that he's in just because he was in it. So
yeah. I'm always telling Richard I've forgotten. Like, I used to consider myself a Doctor Who fan, but now I'd say I've forgotten more about it than most people will ever know.
Mm-hmm. I remember my brother used to watch it when it would only come on. In the US, it used to only come on PBS back in the 80s and 90s. And my brothers were hooked on it. And I'm like, what is this weird thing that you guys are watching? But I got hooked on it too.
Well, David Tennant helped make that Doctor Who really explode out there into New Who. Like, he got a lot of, it's been in America, at least, or around me.
Yeah, I believe it, because Right. Speaking of, let's go into world building. Guys, what are your thoughts on the world building and execution?
Well, I'm not sure if it's scientifically accurate because they do stick with the myth of it being literally 6,000 years up. Oh, you meant story-wise, didn't you?
Very clever. I love it.
Yeah, I thought it was fantastic. And there were parts where they had to cut costs and they still managed to do meaningful things. Like, at the end, there was supposed to be this huge thing of the angels and demons all lining up. But in the show, they had, crowded hallways and just as many actors as they could sort of throw into one space reasonably. And so you could sort of see where they took certain shortcuts. But then there were other scenes where the Garden of Eden looked beautiful. And a lot of the car on fire looked as realistic as a car on fire could look. And you can see where they cut costs, and yet you can see where they still did fantastically well visually.
I mean, I do find it unbelievable that Jack Whitehall would get a girlfriend.
But
the end
is
of the
it
world.
because it was
You never
foretold in the
know.
book? Would he have gotten one anyway?
It's fine. Maybe he's funny. Humor goes
not according to his Netflix specials.
Touche.
Yeah, I love the world building. I feel like when I was watching it, I was actually watching what I had remembered reading, and it's like it when they talk about bringing something to life. I feel like this show really did that, because I'm like, yep, that's it exactly. And so I think that they did an excellent job of actually executing what they wanted, even with budget cuts, because I feel like if you don't know these things, you think that this is how it was meant to be. So it's like a lot of times when there's a show and they've got a big budget and then they go to the low budget scenes, I almost called out a show, and it looks like just a person standing in like a gray room, and you're like, this doesn't look like the rest of the movie. Why are they doing this? And they're like, budget cuts, it was getting a little expensive. I didn't feel that in this. So
nah, even with like the cuts of like 3-card Monty, or the what Mother Loquacious really wanted to say, or Sister Loquacious really wanted to say was this, or what the wink meant was, and stuff. Like, all of those felt good, and it took you. It was not the cheesy like infomercial grayscale to show you it was different from reality.
It did feel a little bit cheesy.
No, but that's what
it
was.
Felt like cheesy in a fun way.
Yeah, but like the stuff kind of like you expected it, because especially if you read the books. But if you got the humor thus far, you're like, all right.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite little details is the use of Queen, because that is like, ultimately you could have lost it, and we'd still be sat here going, what a close adaptation that was. And it's one of those things that is insanely expensive. But it just is such a great detail in the book, and it's so great they were able to keep it in there.
And speaking of the details that are like outside what you can see the world, to me the language of even Crowley saying "for heaven's sake," and stuff like that. Like I found that the choice in language, of course, that corresponds in both stories, but that choice in language built the world a little bit more as well.
Yep. All right, so we're going to go to the one I've really wanted to talk about the most. And forgive me, guys, but I have been losing my voice. So if you see me like being a little bit quieter or not speaking up as much, that is why.
Hopefully all you got to do is just say, I agree.
Yeah, which is basically, yes, I agree. Yeah. You guys are on point. What are your thoughts on casting and acting skills, bringing the characters to life? I'm going to start while I'm on a roll before I lose this voice. I thought that the casting was excellent. There were a couple of characters that I thought were even better when I saw them. I'm like, she's got more personality than I even thought. But the main characters, Ethereal and Crawley, like, they were so fantastic and so engaging. The casting was perfect. From the nuns to the delivery drivers, we call them, like, they call them something else over there, but I'll just say delivery drivers in general. Oh, they were all so good. They were all so good. When the one delivery driver gets hit by a truck, and he looks down, and he's like, "Oh!" Even the expressions on their face, and just the simplicity of their voices, just like these actors are excellent. So, and then seeing everybody like just the stream of, we know this person, we know that person. They'll come in for like little cameos or short parts, and you're just like, this is outstanding. So it was casting. Great job. Great job.
It was the first time that Sheen and Tennant had worked together as well.
Really?
Because they'd always go up for the same roles because they're the same sort of archetype.
They do look very similar.
Their chemistry.
I will say, like, they could, like, if there was a casting of, like, twins, not that they would be, like, fraternal twins. They could be brothers in my mind, you know?
The remake of the movie Twins.
Yeah, a remake of the movie Twins. Yeah, oh my God, that'd be hilarious. But their chemistry is wonderful, and I find it so odd that this is their first time working together ever. God, that just seems odd to me, especially since we were just talking about how all British actors kind of like are recycled. Like, how did they not run across each other again?
They've done a web series during the pandemic called Staged. I say web series on the BBC. I think it was on Netflix as well at some point. That is, absolutely fantastic. I don't know how it holds up now. We're not all locked up, but that was one of those things that managed to really actually take what was going on and do something with it when everyone else was panicking.
Yeah, and I will say I'm one of those people, I give a lot of grace to child actors, especially when they have difficult lines to deliver or a difficult cast. I feel like the Friends were more kids than what Adam was. So I feel like their characters felt a little bit more natural. So trying to feel out, like, the way I chose to see it is that Adam is something that he doesn't even know he is. So sometimes he's saying things and not even understanding why he feels this way or why he needs this. So I kind of went ahead and read him that way, but I do tend to give a little bit more grace.
Is the irritation you feel at the child actor comes from the forces of darkness manifesting within him.
I love that, Martin. How about you, Ben? Any thoughts on? Because I saw you put one in the chat.
Oh, yeah. I can't say enough positive things about Martin Sheen and David Tennant. I mean, everything that they are separately and all of their other shows, whatever, they just brought it all here. And somebody was saying how, what Adriana said. I would totally believe that Sheen and Tennant were best friends for life. And I posted a video about them doing like a little art show and whatever. I posted somewhere way back in the comments. It was what Martin said, where it was their COVID show, where it was just them two on a screen and they were sort of going back and forth between each other. But they were electric in this show. And I mean, I read through the book. I never really thought of the angel and the demon even having a romantic connection. I thought they were just really good friends or whatever. But seeing it here, I could legitimately believe that they grow on to have a romantic relationship. And in the show, one of the lines was, hey, the world's going to end, so let's just run away together. And that completely worked for me. Yeah.
And I think it especially works because they're not actually humans. They're more angelic beings. So I almost see their, like it wouldn't even matter or be a factor for them. But yeah, I could totally read them as like BFFs forever, or they could go romantically. It like if it did either, it wouldn't surprise me. But yeah, their friendship was just like that's true friendship that lasts over thousands and thousands of years. So the friendship really is one of the things that sells me the most on the characters. And yeah, I would believe that they were best friends for life. Like, it's just true, genuine friendship.
the ups and downs, but still there for each other situation. Like when Crowley, are we doing a little spoilers of like things that happened?
Yeah, if it's in the show, go ahead.
Yeah, Crowley popping in into the French prison and saving oh my god, Ethereal. I can't speak. So, but
we've got 2 down, Ben. It's me and you now.
But the thing that I find interesting, we're talking about the main characters, which yes, main characters were first and foremost. They stole the show, but it was meant for them to steal. It was easy. It was put on a platter for them, and they made that platter like Midas touch gold, whatever you want to call it. But also the character development, and this is in the book too. But the depth of information you get for the sub characters and the dynamics, like me and I talked about it in talking about episode 1 of how you kind of understood how Sister Loquacious was viewed by the entire convent, and then even how she viewed herself and stuff, like in very little time. Like there was so much character development of characters that you weren't going to see very often, and they were strong. Like you understood people's drives, even seeing the delivery driver and stuff and what his goals and aspirations, like the character development, which is explained to all writers, is like everyone should get the effort. You should have a mindset of what does this character want, and we got that from each character. What do they want? Like even the demons that popped up and just wanted 1 or 2 things or whatever, were like, here's the baby, Crowley, stop. And then like the conversations back and forth, God, it was great.
Yeah, I loved how they were able to the characters when they do the swap at the end. So we are in spoilers, guys, so don't get mad. But when they do the swap at the end, like they're the other one playing themselves, but they're themselves playing playing it. So
kind of reminiscent of when Hermione is supposed to be playing Bellatrix. And God, I forget. What's her first name? Heather Harry. Bonham Carter.
Yeah, Ellen Bonham Carter.
Yeah, she actually had Emma Watson, like filmed Emma Watson thinking she's playing Bellatrix, and then she imitated Emma Watson imitating her character, and that's how that scene worked out so well. And it kind of, that same thing set up really well for 4 of the characters this go around of the switcheroo.
Yeah, it's like you don't see it at first, but then once it's revealed, it's like you see it, you're like, oh yeah. And when he's in the water with the rubber ducky, and he asks for the rubber ducky, and it's just like, I see what you did there. I love it. So yeah, the characters, they did just an excellent job, which is why this one hits the love and want to watch it again, and I get excited to see it again. So. All right, so this one's going to be a little bit tough. There are a few, not many, general differences. The show, oh, I put unfinished manuscript. Sorry about that. The show for this particular one. So what are the general differences that you guys saw in the show? And for me, and I think it's because I think they wanted to set up the possibility of the next they have the just the ending. There's just a little bit more tacked on to the end, and I think that's a good way to set up that, hey, there might be more. I don't know that they had decided that there would be more at the time that they had filmed it, so we just got a little bit extra with Crawley and Ethereal at the end, which I'm like, I'm all here for this. Give me more of them. I love that little extra of seeing that if it ends here, these two are kind of like riding off into the sunset together, BFFs forever. So, and if we do get more, then we know that he's like, hey, I think it might be them against us, and he's like, you know what I mean? So I liked getting all those little extras, not just ending with the boy stealing the apple and then the neighbor, you know, which was also a very quippy, fun way to end the story overall. But having those little extras, I'm like, I like this because it gives me hope for that there will be another season.
It ends with A Nightingale Sings in Berkeley Square, which is a song about angels falling in love. Make of that what you will.
Mm-hmm. Yep, this is true.
Yeah, I loved how the show finished as well. I feel like the book itself, or at least when I read the book, it seemed like it was so much more focused on Adam. And yes, we saw it through the lens of everything else, but it was much more focused on Adam and how he interacted with everyone. And then the show was 100% the Crowley and Aziraphale, Martin Sheen, David Tennant show.
Michael Sheen.
Michael Sheen,
Michael,
sorry.
not Martin.
Michael Sheen, yes, thank you. Michael Sheen and David Tennant show. And so to have that little coda at the, or that little epilogue at the end showing them together or having dinner together finally and drinking wine and just really celebrating, I felt like that was something I didn't know I needed or wanted, but it completely worked for me.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else got any differences that stood out to them? Natalie's got one. So give her a minute.
All right. Sorry, this is like dinner, lunch, not dinner. Wow. Hold on, buddy. We'll talk to Mino in like an hour. All right. This is his constant request. So, little tiny things. Of course, we talked about the ending being a little bit of difference, but the part of the ending was that Aziraphale actually in like, what is it called? It took the place of a dummy. Hold on. Took the place of a dummy, like a ventriloquist dummy. And that didn't happen in the book. He stayed actually in the median's body, whose name I forget at this point. Again, a lot of characters. Every character was distinct. I didn't feel like it was a embellishment of another character. Hold on. Embellishment of another character. In case you'll wonder why I'm always on mute. But that was a slight change, but honestly, I thought it was still great. And I loved, because, and I remember this exact verbiage in the book, but in the book, it said in her voice, in a voice that wasn't her own. And I like how they matched, like, the lip speaking and stuff, matched the talking with the person, like, and the voices matched up. Like, it looked, you could believe it. It was a very well done execution of possession.
Loki does that to me all the time. It's just like puppy style. So cute. Martin, what are the differences that you noticed?
In the book, you had more Horsemen of the Apocalypse. There was like a biker gang who sort of saw the Horsemen and joined in and got taken out by a load of fish on the motorway. But yeah, not really many differences overall, which is mind-blowing.
Which to me, I mean, it's partially because Neil Gaiman was actually on set and was like, this is how it's going to be. But also, it to me proves how good the writing was that not much changed. Because I kind of feel like sometimes if you're having to change when it's a series. Now, if it was a movie, yeah, there would be a lot of changes. But when you have a series that are tied to a book, you have a lot of wiggle room on time there and such, and thus there's actually certain things that you probably don't need to cut. But even Game of Thrones cut things, so it's not necessary. But I think it's a testament of how well the writing was, that nothing much changed. Like, it was like the dialogue was verbatim practically most of the time.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else notice any differences that they wanted to point out? Nope. So there aren't many. So let's go ahead and do our best and worst if we have any. All I'm going to say is that when it comes to the biker gang behind the Horsemen, I know that it's only 6 episodes, but I would have loved to have seen that. I think that would have just been really, really a lot of fun. But I don't know that it would have necessarily added anything. And that's more time that if I had to have the choice between, if they said, well, we could have that's the little added scenes here and there of the bikers, or we could add in that part with Crawley and Ethereal's kind of origin, like let us go through that. I think it was like 20 or 30 minutes of their backstory. I'd rather have the backstory of Crawley and Ethereal. Like I just really loved seeing them go through, especially when they were with Shakespeare. And I think Crawley said something, and Shakespeare was like, "Oh, that's good," and kind of like turns around, and you can see him like writing it down. So
it kind of gave me Forrest Gump vibes of like everything that you think is good was actually given from Forrest Gump, what is this?
The smile
like
shirt
face, or it happens, and they're like, "Oh, that's great,"
and then it's all over, bumper stickers everywhere. Yeah, so I love those extra scenes, but I'm also a sucker for a good friendship. So all of the extra friendship stuff was just fun, and I think that if they'd have done the other bikers and all of the names, all of that's super fun. So when you go back and read the book and you see them going through well, I'm going to be this, and the names are hilarious. So all of that is so much fun.
But they also had that banter when they're trying to pick the not country, continents that they're going to rule between Adam and his friends. So I feel like you get the same feeling in that banter that we miss out on from the biker gang.
Yeah.
But they also probably didn't want to pay rights to actual Hell's Angels too.
Yeah, choices were made. These are not bad choices. But if you haven't read the book, that is something that you can look forward to, because this goes on for a little while. So you'll have those little added things, because you might be thinking, oh, if it's exactly the same, it's not exactly the same. But as far as things to look forward to, that is something that you can look forward to if you're going to read the book. And I'm not going to spoil all of the things that were said, but they had some fun name changes, things going on when they're following.
And surprisingly, it was easy to follow the back and forth, because they're changing like the number one thing as a writer that you're not supposed to do, which is change the names of your characters. Writing, it was done, but you understood. And then when you catch up with them later, it's like so and so, formerly known as so and so, and almost called but not really, and they go through all of their names. It's really understood as this, but we're not going to put it on paper.
Wanted to be this. Yeah. So that is something, and just getting more of that humor, especially if you're a writer and you want to see ways that humor can be incorporated into your story, that's definitely a good one. So I feel like if it was left out because of time constraints or whatever, that was a good trade-off for me, because I genuinely enjoyed all of that whole half episode of just let us know all of the things about Crawley and Ethereal. That was excellent. So the two, I can't even call either one a worse change, because I would have loved to have had that in the book, but it wasn't. But that's okay. But and the bikers, I would have loved to have had them in the show, but it's okay that they weren't, because I can still get that. I just go back and read those chapters where they were at to get the story about the bikers, and I can go watch that whole chunk of the history of Ethereal and Crawley. So definitely a change, but was it a best or a worst? Anybody else got any best, worst changes?
Not at all. I mean, every single change that I really noticed, aside from the wonderful intro between the two angels, between the angel and demon, everything else sort of felt to me like it was, hey, we need to cut costs somewhere. So this huge elaborate scene is just going to be very narrow and focused for how we're going to film it. And so I feel like every single decision there basically was monetary, and it still got through the humor, it still got through the fantastic acting, and it still got through the point of the scene itself. So all those changes really felt natural to me. And I don't think that we lost anything by doing it. So
Gabriel wasn't really featured in the book, but it's John Hamm.
That was very well done. Though
Yes.
I will say it kind of bugged me a little bit that how fake good he was. Like it could be, you could see right through it like all the time. And I wish it was more, it came across more like genuine good, but and then like does bad things for good reasons situation.
Bastard actors, though, they're all like that.
But I still enjoyed it. It's still like it was worth it and everything. And I thought it was still very well done. I'm happy with certain changes, and I would have liked, but it's not gonna stop me from watching or reading.
Yep. All right. Oh my gosh, I cannot believe, guys, we are right on track. I think it's because I have to talk less, so the problem might be me.
I've also reined myself back a few times, and at one point, that when I was off screen, I was making my kids lunch. Then I was like, well, I might as well make mine too.
All right, so let's go ahead and dive into what are your final thoughts on all spoilers, doesn't matter, book, final thoughts on book, show, the future that may or may not be.
Favorite quotes as I like to go through.
Oh, you want to do some quotes? Okay, we got a couple minutes for some quotes.
Yeah. Well, for me, my quotes, like the one that stands out and the one that I want I just want my husband to watch the first 20 minutes of that like backstory between the Serial and Crowley, and which I even like the subplot of like it was Crawley, then it changed to Crowley, type thing. But the banter back and forth of like them being part of history and such, I loved it. And one of my favorite lines, and it's one was talking about Noah's Ark and everything. He's like, it's gonna kill everyone. Well, locally. Oh, that sounds like something our bunch would do. Like, like they're all gonna drown. And he's like, even the kids. Like, just this like, oh my god moments. And then the next one was like, oh, did you ever meet him as Jesus getting crucified? So it was like this commentary that like nonchalant, like this happens all the time, which technically in that time it did. But and they were just saying like, oh well, what did he say? They got them all in a bunch. Oh, be kind to one another. Oh yeah, that will do it. Like those two times. Oh, and then at Noah's Ark when he was like, hey, the unicorn is going. Okay, well, you at least have one. Yeah. And then I was like, oh, throwback to
that's
the last
why we
unicorn.
don't have unicorns.
The last unicorn being that the movie. I felt like they were still holding true to that, and I thought that was glorious. There was just so many things, but like I feel like the history. Oh, and then even at the beginning, anything that was tying back in history, where it's like, didn't you have a flaming sword? And he was like, yeah,
that's what I was gonna bring up.
But she's with child, and it's dangerous out there. And
I love the way that even from the very beginning, they're like, didn't you have you gave him your sword, and so you see Adam trying to use the sword against the lion, and then like every once in a while, someone's like, "Didn't you have a flaming sword?" And even towards the war, they're like, "And they're like, you were issued a flaming sword." And then he tells on himself the one time when he goes back and he goes, "I know it's about the sword." And they're like, "Well, no, it's because you don't have a body, but also where's your sword?"
Yeah, like the sword was a big deal, but not that big of a deal. The body was bigger deal at the end, and then even Nia, you and I during the watch party picked this line out, but the line at the very beginning of the show, which is to me the entire premise, is when Crowley says, "Wouldn't that be something if I did the good thing and you did the bad thing?" And it is a complete summary of the entire premise here. Is like demons bad doing good things, and the angels doing bad things, and that's what you end up seeing. Like no one is 100% one way or the other.
Yeah, because it's like no matter what, this war has to happen. But why? And humans are going to be the fodder, you know.
And I love that they were able to have this sentence be the theme, but you don't really realize it's the theme until you've gotten the whole story. So sorry to ruin it if you haven't gone either. But to me, that line at the beginning is the theme of the whole point. So, all right, I will step down from the soapbox. Who else wants to step up?
My husband made this observation when we were watching too about Gabriel. I'm like, you're not wrong. So anybody else got final thoughts? And then we're going to go to Adrian's question about predictions for season 2.
Sure.
Any other final thoughts?
I will say that Neil Gaiman certainly has a type. There was a scene in Good Omens and a scene in Sandman where supernatural forces influence William Shakespeare. So I thought that was kind of funny how entirely different how they played out, entirely different tones, entirely different everything. But those specific events are, Neil Gaiman giving tribute to William Shakespeare as this wonderfully talented person who would attract supernatural forces to want to get them to inspire humanity.
I feel like also it's saying that William Shakespeare wasn't original. He stole from others.
That's fair too.
Yeah. But doing it in a fun-loving way. Like that kind of like jab, but also homage.
Yeah, and I thought that Crowley, when he thinks his best friend has died, that scene was just very heartbreaking because it was him just such uncontrolled fury and hurt at the same time. And that's wonderful how the actors, David Tennant, managed to do that. So yeah, my final thoughts: read the book, watch the show.
Yes.
Plain and simple.
I just want to go to that bookshop.
Yeah. Did that get fixed after it burned?
Mm-hmm. That was one of the things that Adam undid.
Adam, excellent. All right, so wait, let's see. Is that Gaiman? Give me a side eye to Shakespeare. But I think it's in a fun way though because he's actually in it. I'm like, I loved it. I like Shakespeare, so let's see. It's the first time he admitted that they were friends. I know, Vicky, I know. It had all the feels. It really did. Anybody got any predictions for what will be covered in season 2? I hope that Neil Gaiman's able to write a book to go along with it because I'd be curious to see how that comes out. I mean, if he feels like it's going to be good. I know some people are like, they don't want to mess with near perfection. You know what I mean? Like, we had a good thing here, don't want to mess it up, but going forward, maybe the show is the way. And if he only does it like it's like a screenplay or manuscript, I would like to read that too, even if it doesn't manifest itself in book form like this. But I'm looking forward to see what Will Crawley and if he'll do, if it is, if it does come down to somehow it's humanity against all of the angels and demons when they realize, hey, we're just going to be wiped out so that they can have their war. Wait a minute. So I would love to see what they would do with that.
Someone did comment on Twitter to Gaiman that, how are you going to do it? There isn't a second book. And he was quite blasé saying, well, there wasn't a first book until we wrote it.
Very true.
So at the end of season 1, didn't Newt and the descendant, what's her name?
Anathema,
didn't they burn the second complete works of predictions? Like without even looking at it?
Oh, she was...
Because that's what came in the mail. Was like another complete works of like, okay, my first complete works got you to the end of the world and then we are good. And then here's the second one now that you're still alive. What?
But if she burns it, does that mean that Crawley couldn't bring it back, or Adam even maybe could bring it back if they
Or there might just be another copy of
if
it.
they realize that they need it. Oh, maybe another copy somewhere.
Yeah, but that was something where it was like given the choice, like they didn't want to know the future and everything, and I found that interesting, which makes me feel that it's going to be a lot of people like maybe searching for it possibly or trying to bring it back. Maybe that will be the goal.
Because here's the thing.
Yeah.
If she could see the future and she knew and she was giving her the book, won't she know if she burned the whole thing? So everybody will be thinking there must be another one because she had to have known to put another one out there.
But prophecy tends to be a little bit more vague.
Yeah.
It depends. I mean, this one turned out to be spot on the whole way through, especially in the show, because it was there was the hint about Apple or something like that. So that's how her whole family made all the money.
Yeah. And choose your face wisely.
Yeah, I found that hilarious. Like the whole, I call it Forrest Gump history of like it's set in today's times, but there's this other aspect to it.
They did a radio adaptation about 15 or so years ago, and Agnes Nutter was the only actor they brought back. It was Peter Serafinovich and Brian from Spaced, Mark Heap were the leads.
Here's another prediction. Look at it this way. I'm wondering if, Adam has to still be a part of it as well as his friends. But the thing is, the season 1 came out in 2019. So this was probably filmed in 2018. It is now 2023. For a kid, 5 years is a lot of time. Like he probably looks like an adult. He's gone through puberty, has an Adam's apple, and oh, funny.
Probably learned to act.
Oh,
yeah, and so
funny without even meaning to be.
I was like, right as I say it, I'm like, yeah, okay. But so it makes me wonder how far in the future is this going to be set, or are we going to go expensive? Similarly, how Stranger Things has filmed things as 11 when she was younger using a body double, but then meshing that body double with 11's face and stuff like that. That would be expensive as hell, and I don't see them doing that. Like they got a good budget, but I don't think that good. And nor would I want to pull the budget from other places to make that happen either.
I'd rather them skip.
Just do Adam the angsty teenage years.
Yeah, which is fine. Never mind. Never mind. It's a funny joke. They skipped over Jesus's. Let's at least have the Antichrist's teenage years. So, but unless you look at some other like lost hymns, I think it was called or whatever. But there's other books of the Bible that were never included in the Bible. But bottom line is, because of that fact of just the natural age of the characters, now we're talking like we are 5 years past the end of the world, which gives me more curiosity to how the world is coping. Did we go back to our old ways? They even hinted that pollution, death, which can't be killed which actually it could be foreshadowing. Death can't be killed because that would be the end of the entire universe, which is weird to think. And then they also spoke of, at the end, they were talking about, okay, that's the great plan, but is the great plan the same thing as the infallible plan? And it was like, oh wait, they don't know. So I have a feeling age of the characters, the 4 horsemen, which they said will come back, and everything, as well as like the fact that you can't kill death, and the plan. I feel like those are going to be the main factors that attribute to the next season.
Yeah. And I would agree. I would like to see the skipping of time, maybe play back some of the things that, how they do. Like some of the things periodically this particular year, that have happened, to get us caught up to where we're at. But yeah, I'd like that skipping somehow to be done so we can move on from whatever the current day would be.
I will say there's a tiny bit of spoiler alert. if you watch the show and you have subtitles on, like I do in my house all the time because I get interrupted and I like to at least read or there's loud noises. The subtitles for the narrator say God. It is the voice of God that is narrating the whole time. So that could possibly play a factor here as well.
Interesting. I like.
Does make sense that the narrator is God. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's not Alanis Morissette either.
No, but they still went female. And
They did.
But even with
And
the
voice.
Alanis Morissette, the only thing she did in Dogma was go beep, like that. Other than no, she did open her mouth and then it.
Well, yeah, she killed Matt Damon and.
Yeah, it was Ben Affleck. Matt Damon, I think, died by Ben Affleck's hands.
Told you she was funny.
Yeah. That's right. I gotta rewatch that because that was another thing. I think me and I brought it up because Chris Rock's character, right as he fell from the sky, Jay looked up and was like, or said, people just don't fall from the sky. Then he fell from the sky, but naked, and he went. And Jay was like, naked women, hot women don't just fall from the sky, hoping that he had the power. Because the character, Sergeant Chadwell, he kept on thinking it was him. That was magical. And that kind of made me think of it with Jay as well. So
Michael McKean, that's another fantastic actor in here too, where it was just everything was on point. Everything he did.
Accent as an American, I thought it was fine, but I'm not from that region. So how would you suggest his accent is, Martin?
I should point out I'm from the opposite end of the island.
Yes, but you're a lot closer and interact with people more than I do. So that's why I'm asking you.
I don't know how the Scottish would find it, but for me, I properly had initially, I thought it was the guy that played Ford Prefect in the original Hitchhiker's Radio Show. And it took me a moment to realize it was Chuck from Better Call Saul.
He's played other great roles too, but even my husband happened to walk by and was like, hey, he's from Better Call Saul. And I'm like, okay, fine, whatever. As long as you
tap and what have you, it worked for me, but I might not be the best judge.
Yeah. Any other final thoughts, guys, before we go ahead and wrap it up? This was excellent. I was so happy to get to talk about this one with you guys. Voice is fading fast. So we're going to go ahead. I can't believe we're like right on time. This is like amazing.
Very few times it's happened.
Charlie did come in. Hey, Charlie. Good to see you. Again, if you're watching this on the replay, go ahead and leave your thoughts down in the comments below, and I will get back to them. I enjoy hearing other people's thoughts, and especially if it's something that we missed, I'm like, oh, I totally missed that, and I'll want to go back and look for it. So if you have any thoughts, go ahead and leave them down there, and we appreciate you. And if you are in the comments watching on the replay, go check out the chat. They've had some fun conversations, especially about BBC and Channel 4, which I don't know what this is, but
Channel 4 is like the main one. I know Great British Bake Off airs on that, and I have an episode to watch.
Yeah, they stole it from the BBC. Controversy. What's funny is Ben probably remembers seminal 90s sci-fi Babylon 5. And that would air on Channel 4, and the producer every now and again would be like, Captain, we've got a comm coming in on Channel 4.
That's hilarious. All right, let's go ahead and do our outros. We'll go clockwise around, starting with Ben. Let everybody know who you are and where they can find you and all of the things that you do.
I'm Ben Pick. I do Monday nights, 7 p.m. Eastern time. I do writing advice, questionable writing advice with writing metaphors. I do scripting the book, obviously. I also do the self-publishing tips and tricks with SD Houston, Shannon, and Morgan Lee. So you can find me all over. And yeah, thanks again. This was a fun morning.
I am Natalie Locke. I am not as spread out as Ben is. I don't have that many skills and knowledge. I'm still learning. But the what I do right now is flash fiction, and it's very much genre hopping. I have flash fiction live every Saturday on mine or my co-host channel, Change Our Author, actually co-creator and everything. But either way, on Saturdays at 8:30, I am live on Twitch at 7 p.m. Every Sunday night for flash fiction. Surprise, surprise. And there is a new thing coming where I'm going to do narrations of public domain books, because I shared on last flash fiction how the voices I've been doing for Charlotte's Web for my son as I read to him at night, and everyone loved it and was like, you should do this. So we're going to see how this goes. And Grimm's Fairy Tales won out. So that will be a new thing, but those are pre-recorded videos, not live like all my other stuff. But yeah, flash fiction, reading, and randomness.
I want you to do Little Mermaid based on the rant you did once on YouTube. What are you doing? No, stay in the sea. You're 16.
You're 16. Stay there. You're not legally allowed, though. Actually, 16 is you can what's it called when a child emancipate from their parents and everything. So 16 in America, and actually some younger. But here's the thing, in Hollywood, the reason all the Hollywood kids emancipate from their parents is because then the child labor laws won't apply to them and they can work longer. So they get pressured from producers to emancipate from their parents, so they aren't held to those only certain hours per day to work.
And then the parents are still the managers a lot of times.
Yeah. So. It's like so many freaking documentaries I've seen. I'm like, how has this been going on for so long? So long. Like
I'm just that'll be an issue with Adam in series 2.
Yeah, I digress though. Okay, so yeah, flash fiction, reading stuff, and apparently known to rant on the live streams.
And Martin.
Martin, co-author of The McMurdo Rift, as seen with some of your favourite panelists today. And I also do YouTube stuff. If I haven't bored you yet, come and check that out.
Awesome. And you're here on my channel. I'm Nia, Vixen of Fiction. We do this once a month. Next month, on the 30th, so right before Halloween, we are going to do Coraline. So join us same time, same place for that. It'll be a lot of fun. Coraline's just great. So spoiler alert for when we do the love. Can't help it. But it's a lot of fun. Come hang out with us. And if you want to do some live stream productivities, I'm on Tuesday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern. And next Saturday, or this coming up Saturday, we're going to be doing Author Tubers React. We talk about all the things that have been going on in the writer and bookish realm of things. So if you are into books, into writing, curious about publishing, like hot takes about publishing and writing and books, come check us out. We're going to have a good time. It's all in fun. Nobody gets canceled. So come join us for that. We love our hot topics and our unpopular opinions, even though a lot of times we have similar opinions. So I'm like, how unpopular is it if we all agree? So join us for that. And we will be seeing you guys next time, Sunday, the 30th of October, for our next book club reading. And then by then we'll let you guys know what else we have coming up for the rest of the year. So let me find my thing and we can all say bye.